Welcome to another episode of London Conversations. My name is Alban. I'm Head of Innovation and Life Sciences at London & Partners, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by Priya, the CEO and founder of Sentry, an award-winning AI platform supporting the education sector. Priya, welcome.
Thank you so much. Really great to be here, Alban.
Thanks. Thanks for being with us. Well, to kick us off, why don't you tell us a bit more about Sentry, what you do to support the education and that relation with AI for anyone who's not aware of Sentry yet.
Yeah, sure. So at Sentry Tech, we've created a world-class gold standard platform for teaching and learning. And essentially what the platform does is a student will log in anywhere in the world for any curricula and they can learn. So just imagine a student logging in to learn a bit of physics, or a university student learning some law. When they're learning on this system, the difference is that we use a blend of artificial intelligence, neuroscience, and learning science. So we're tracking your movements to learn how you learn. So if you imagine student Alban, imagine when you're a bit younger, you're on the platform, you're learning some physics. This is a system that will learn by itself your focus levels, your effort levels, your memory function, your preferences, your gaps in knowledge and skills. So you're learning physics, let's say you're struggling, the machine can autonomously learn and figure out by itself that Alban's struggling in physics actually because he can't calculate equations in maths. And then the platform will bring up the maths to fix the physics. So it's a pretty simple idea really, but it solves a huge problem, because when I went to school, my parents went to school, there was very much a one-size-fits-all delivery of education, and education hasn't really changed much since then. So our goal was, how can we personalize education using the latest advances in technology while also offering deep insights to teachers? So you're a teacher in a classroom, instead of, marking 30 tests, then giving feedback, trying to figure out which child is struggling where, you can open up the Sentry platform and in real time it tells you exactly where the children are struggling, why, so you can make timely targeted interventions. So again, very, very simple idea, but a huge problem that hadn't yet been solved until this technology came alive about 5 years ago.
That's fascinating. Thankfully, I was not too bad at physics when I was younger. However, I would be quite scared to pick it up again on your platform and see how I'm doing. So
well, it's all about motivation. So yeah. It'll be a positive experience. You wouldn't be stuck on anything. I think that's the main point.
Yeah, well, let's see. We'll discuss that later on. Let's dive into the elephant in the room, the current situation with the COVID crisis. It has obviously shown the importance of digital education to a lot of people, whilst putting a lot of pressure on the education system, school, universities. And obviously your team is working directly with the education system. So how have you been coping with the relation with the education sector, as well as your own company being working remotely?
Yeah, so it was really interesting time actually, because it completely disrupted our business. It completely disrupted the education sector, as you mentioned. It's just, I think we're still learning, right? So schools have now, in the UK, they've opened, in certain places they haven't. And what's really interesting is the schools that trialed the system because they were forced to do so. I don't think previously they would have, because education is, it's a bit of a skeptical sector. It's a little bit slow to change. Some schools were forced to come to online. And what's really interesting is that a lot of those schools have actually subscribed to use the technology from September this year. And so we have a lot of data on actually the use cases, how they use the technology, how successful it was. They saw it for themselves, and now they'll be using online technology in a blended learning environment within school, which is really exciting, because that does change the face of education. It changes what children and teachers experience every day.
Yeah, of course. It's challenges that you never thought you were going to have as a founder, I'm sure. But it's all interesting. Let's put COVID aside for a moment. We'll come back to it. But obviously, you're in London. Your team, your main part of your team is based here in London. So can you tell us what you think are the benefits of creating and scaling a company here in London?
Yeah, well, look, London is very much a global city. If you look at the members of staff at Sentry, it's a really diverse team. We have people from all over Europe. We've actually got a couple of Americans. It's I think London's a fantastic place to run a tech company, to start a tech company, or to expand your tech company if you're from elsewhere. The diversity of people, the languages, the environment is fantastic. And even during COVID and during lockdown, what was really interesting about being a UK company was, we heard our Chancellor, the Exchequer, address the nation, knowing obviously what this crisis will potentially do to the economy and to business. And being a British business, we took advantage actually of one of the schemes. And this might sound like I'm getting into technical detail, but this is really important. It's about survival. So, they had schemes for large businesses. The Sybil scheme, they had schemes for smaller businesses. I think, granted, there was some criticism about, for example, the freelance workspace, etc. But running a company, business was their goal was really to protect business. So it's not really just even about being in London and being in this amazing environment with the great vibe and the fact it's multicultural, but being a British business is, to me, it really, really helped us. So Century itself actually took advantage of the Future Fund funding, which was offered by the UK government, and that very much helped us. And now obviously we're reaping the rewards, and we're seeing the results of being a solid business with solid funding, but also an amazing growth trajectory in online education. But if anyone, is ever listening to this and thinking, do I come to London? Yes, you do. I love it. And I think that my team love it. I think we attract fantastic talent. I think that there are certain policies that are being implemented, for example, in the US in terms of visas for tech companies. London doesn't have that. We welcome people who are highly skilled, to join our companies here. And the UK government is working really hard to ensure that in a post-Brexit world in 2021, that we are able to employ the brightest and the best talent from around the globe. So London is absolutely a place where one should think about setting up their company or indeed expanding.
Looking at the future now, I know it's big to say that, but we try our best. Obviously, going back to the current crisis, it has showed the importance of digital education and some new trends across the sector of digital education. What do you think are the trends that are here to stay here? Well,
yeah, it's such a good question, because I think the answer to this is different to what people would have said last year. Because I think last year and the year before there were quite a few panels on this, and I think people would say, yes, AI, personalization, adaptive learning. Then they talk about VR, they talk about AR, and all sorts of things. I think with COVID, what we're going to see in the near future is COVID has been a catalyst to the adoption of digital technology. And that is a good thing. I know that a lot of children, might be sitting there thinking, but I didn't really like the online homework that I had to do when I was at home. And, parents were tearing their hairs out thinking, well, how do I do this? And I totally understand that. But I think that the use of a system where a child can learn independently, and the system that can give personalized feedback, I'm seeing just from the data in terms of how many schools are taking this on and then using it and implementing it into their main processes when they go back to school, I think it's going to be a really big deal. I think that in the UK, I know that we have an international audience with this, but if you think about potentially about a third of schools will change teaching and learning and embed technology in the next year, I think that that's a reasonable forecast.
The classroom is changing, and hopefully that crisis can bring a lot of positive changes as well. And I think your call for flexibility is really important, and hopefully doing it here and in many other platforms will have an impact. So it's thank you for that.
For now, for the next year, while we focus on all the changes, right, and the fact that everyone's had to adapt their business. If they haven't adapted, I'm not really sure. I've not seen a business today that hasn't adapted in some way. But I think we've got our focus for the next 12 to 18 months on what we're doing, and we're really, really excited about Century and the global growth that we're able to achieve. I'm
very pleased that we were able to be alongside you in your journey with the company, and if we can do anything to support you further, I have to thank you. So thank you very much, because we will be forever grateful for everything that your team has done. Well, thank you, Priya. Thank you for your kind word. Thank you for your time today. It was brilliant talking to you. Until next time. And you. Thanks so much.